TIFU by Tickling My Wife. So this happened last night, and I'm still recovering from it. A bit of backstory, my wife and I have been working the entire time during quarantine, so we were able to keep some semblance of normality in our lives. She works for a website development company writing code and such. I'm an essential worker, with bright and early days and a 21:00-ish bedtime. Q about 3 months ago, her boss issues crunch for all devs. She has been working 10 to 14 hour days Monday, Friday. Naturally, she has been hard at work and our personal lives took a bit of a step back. We would still do things together during the weekends, but not as often. Until last night, we were watching a bit of some show on Netflix. It was really boring, so we went right to the chill part of things. And this is where things took a wrong turn. Brained me decided it would be a fantastic idea to tickle my dangerously ticklish wife. Brained me as an idiot, so I tickled. She yelped and deservedly and unintentionally headbutted me right across the face. As I'm laughing and holding my face, I notice she went pale. I look at my hands. Blood. So I head to the washroom. As I'm cleaning my face I notice my lip is slightly lower than it should be, so I turn it inside out to find the gaping hole near my 2 front teeth. So off to the emergency room we go. Shamefully explain to the attending what happened. She laughs. I get 2 stitches inside my mouth, and I'm told to not eat anything hot or solid for the next 24 hours. When we get home she looks at me and says, "You stilps?" Me, yup. Good times. TL. Doctor. Brained me tickled my wife. Ended up with stitches in my mouth. Edit. Spelling. Edit 2. Thanks for all the awards and upvotes. Y'all are amazing. Edit 3. Some people asked what was the show. I'm not sure on the English name, since the show is in Turkish. Translating it directly from my native language it would mean The Guardian. Hope that helps. Doesn't matter. Had sex. But I cried the whole time. So normal sex. Are you okay? Not gonna lie, this sub has conditioned me to expect any tickling story to end with piss or streaming down someone's leg. I was waiting for the wife's version of this post. Oops. I thought it was a fart. Headbutted him to cover up the fact that she pees her pants. Him taking notes. What does headbutted mean? It means hit with your head. Thanks. You're welcome. This is oddly wholesome and funny as hell. At least she understands. Wholesome awesome hole? We have yet to hear if he received stitches or sex. Yes. If my marriage isn't this wholesome, I'll stay single. Thank you. If you're good in headbutting, you'll be fine. I always tell my boyfriend I'm not responsible for your injury/sudden death if you tickle me. I've literally told my husband I do not consent to being tickled ever. It may sound extreme, but I get to decide how and by whom I'm touched, and tickling makes me extremely uncomfortable. Hey, if that's how you feel, that's a legitimate boundary that should be respected. I have done this to my husband, minus the stitches. To be fair, I warned him, and he didn't listen. I have no control over tickle thrashing. Next thing he knew, he had a big busted lip. If he ever starts thinking about tickling, I just remind him and he stops. Lesson learned. I wish my boyfriend can listen like your husband did. He continues to tickle me, even if I playfully bite his hand, or try to head bump him, or get out of his grasp, but it's impossible. And I hate tickles, but he loves how I squirm. My boyfriend learned the hard way. I've kicked him in his balls. I've kicked and hit him everywhere. Tickled me can't control herself. He'll never tickle me again. He's afraid, haha. I guess it takes them getting hurt to fully understand. My husband tried really hard again years and years later. Reminding him didn't help, but he stopped abruptly just after starting. I grazed his balls and that was enough for him. No one wants a busted nut. That was the last of it. He hasn't tried for a very long time. Haha. It's reverse for me. I'm ticklish everywhere, and my wife is normal. Yeah, it's funny how the tables turn him the same. She said okay, but like, whip it out. This cracked me up. Thanks. This right here sounds like a good relationship. Note to self, when tickling p's wife, wear padded headgear and mouthpiece. Tickling is a full contact sport. I got slapped when I did that. Working 10 to 14 hour days Monday, Friday. Fuck that. When we get home she looks at me and says, "You still ps?" Me, yup. Good times. This alone has me laughing. I also want this man's ticklish wife. Also. Q about 3 months ago. It's Q. Sorry. English is not my first language. Fixed it. Thanks 3. Your English is great. There is an interesting history behind the word Q. It was stage directions used during plays, a signal or sign, verbal or physical. An actor had to wait for his cue before speaking his lines. In a weird way, it almost seems like Q would still be right then. First in, first out. It's his line in the queue to speak. English is weird. Not exactly. Q means a signal. Could be verbal or physical. Example, when the broom drops, that's your cue to shout your line. This whole sub is just erotica. And swan's pants. I don't get the point about the job description. Add nothing. Creative writers tend to do that a lot. Agreed. I guess it's to make it more of a backquote story. I don't see the appeal either, but it's really common even in person. The context I got from it is that they've not gotten to slender much time together lately and a bit of a why. If he wanted to, he could have been more succinct. Then again, I get guilty of this too. 1/10 teeth too pointy. I'm just glad there was still a happy ending. They were happy too. That's why you have to tie them up before tickling them, with consent of course. Tickles, and you get stitches. We have a rule in our house. Any injuries sustained while tickling me are the fault of the tickler. It's not my fault. I lash out and hit /elbow/kick anyone who tickles me. I don't mean to, it just happens. I tickled my boyfriend's foot and he jerked, and I copped an enormous flipper foot to the side of the head. He did martial arts. There was a lot of power behind that reflex and I saw stars. He felt like the worst person about accidentally kicking me, but I learned a valuable lesson about tickling feet when my head is directly above said foot. I feel your pain op. Except as the one being tickled. 3 times my husband has broken my nose as a result of his tickling and my subsequent thrashing. 3. Well, joke's on him. As the 4th time he got the broken nose. I do feel bad, though. It was bad enough he can't breathe out of one nostril now. Oops. But I don't get tickled anymore. For whoever sees this, including Opus. It's called the Protector in English. Imo. It's okay. Not great, but definitely not super bad either. I think a long rod with a feather attached to it would be a good investment for you. Will hopefully protect you from close quarters combat next time. U/Gooey in 8995 commented on a post a couple years ago that I saved and goes like this. Well, I tickled the ps out of my pregnant wife a couple days ago and she promised to ruin sex for us. Last night as I was about to climax, she hugs me and comes in close to my ear and says, "Oh yeah baby, spray it into your daughter's face. Yup, never messing with that woman again." I expected this to be a poop story. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. I'm embarrassed to admit that this is totally me. Do not tickle me without expecting to be hit. I know it's irrational and I always try to work on it, but apparently it's a survival mechanism for me. I get defensive if you tickle me. Honestly, it's just how you're wired. I'd suggest more making anyone close enough to you that they'd consider doing this, more acutely aware of that this is your reaction and you cannot control it. Source: wife is like this. One of our kids too. I've never tried changing either of them. Probably wouldn't end well if I tried. Got sex though. Still counts as a win. Ticklers get stitches. Wow, did you all bang, or what? The end of this, the "you still ps" line. OMG. Classic. I hope I can find someone willing to send me to the hospital and ask me if I'm still ps when I get home. The Protector. The voice dubbing is pretty hilarious, especially when they ramp up the drama. When you brought up the fact she was a developer, I thought you were going to make her accidentally delete a bunch of code. Didn't someone post almost this same scenario like 3 days ago? Why did I read this title and immediately think he made her ps herself? Am I projecting? Maybe. Almost exact same thing happened to me, except I KO'd him. He fell on top of me and I thought I'd accidentally killed him for 4 seconds while I couldn't get him off of me. Okay, why did we need the backstory though? Doesn't matter. Had sex. Does that mean you took oral off the table that night? Lol. This is hilarious. Pro tip. Tie up dangerously ticklish people before you tickle them. Then you can tease them without the violence, and it brings a bit of spice to the bedroom. I keep trying to tell my fianc that this will happen eventually. That, or I'll kick him in the face when he tickles my feet. Many years ago, me and some colleagues went to a big fair where there were beer tents and also carnival rides, think Oktoberfest, so we started getting rather drunk and on our way home decide to go into a haunted house. One of those with real actors. I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, so I squeal and scream, but have a fun time nonetheless. And as those haunted houses go, sometimes everything is quiet for a few steps and you just know something big will come up, so you're extra nervous and alert. That's when my colleague who was walking right in front of me turns around to me and goes B-O-O-O-O. I scream and bend to bunch up into a ball, and while I do that, my forehead hits his nose. I got a huge bump on the forehead. Here at least partially broken nose. Fun coincidence. That was the spot in the house where they do automated pictures. So there was a picture of us stumbling through, me holding my forehead, him holding his nose, some confused other coworkers surrounding us, and a mummy who didn't quite know how to proceed with this mess before him. And no, we didn't buy the pics. A fact that I regret to this day. I just saw them on the monitor when leaving. We were too drunk and too preoccupied. Me tickling my partner cost me a new set of hotters. That was an expensive tickle, if you ask me. Not ups up. You got sympathy sex. Sympathy sex FTW. She used her head to prevent you from getting head.